right, bring us in, Random Task.
We're coming in. This is the pre-show. Just making sure everything's humming.
Welcome, everybody, to the pre-show.
You guys were just talking about such juice, and I was setting things up. I was like, why not get this?
Yeah, we
get this on there.
Let's get it on there. Have we got the YouTube link tweeted out yet?
I would think so. Victor's been Johnny on the spot with that, but maybe double check.
Hxro.
Let's see.
Labs.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does look like he's got it out. So I will tweet that as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. Derek Peterson says, "Give us the juice." There's lots of juice to give today. It's an all-time high episode, guys. So this is going to be dope. Yeah. I'm so fired.
It's exciting.
Let's get it. Let's go after it. Here we go.
If you're sitting here watching this stream today, you cannot underestimate how ahead of the curve you are right now.
Bitcoin looks tired. Altcoins look hungry.
I'm just not quite sure that Bitcoin has any more sauce.
I still think this thing is really worth a lot more than it is.
This stuff's spooky, man. These chaos PRZs are intense.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Solana is highly performant and has the team with the experience to support it.
$4,800 Ethereum. That's a big move here.
So whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. Welcome back, everybody, to DeltaFi on Hxro Labs channel. My name is RT, going by Random Task 555 on Twitter. We've got Rob Levy off to my right, your left, and we've got Crypto Messiah hanging over there. This is all-time high day, guys. So, you know, we've got lots to talk about, lots to look at. There's a lot of energy in the market right now, and I resent what Surimo just said in the chat. He says, "Welcome back to the weekly stream rug show." As the host of this stream, I resent that statement, but you're right. The internet's been hiccuping a little bit. It's weird. I tweaked a whole bunch of stuff over the weekend. We're going to see if it rolls smooth today, and if not, I'm going to have a whole bunch of strongly written letters to my government.
All right, everybody. Welcome to RugFi.
Yeah, RugFi. So good to see you guys. There is just too much to talk about. I'm gonna pass it to Rob. Rob, hit me up. What do you got? You're on the spot, kid. Yeah. Soak in the moment. There it is.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, baby. Bitcoin. I think the story, has to be this ETF approval. Even though, we all think the product itself, this futures-backed ETF, is garbage. We've all seen the math about the roll cost, but the bottom line is an ETF has been approved and is trading in the US. There's been well over $1 billion worth of money flowing into it. That was just in the first trading day yesterday, close to $1 billion. This is pushing new money into Bitcoin that previously may have not been able to have exposure. That is the biggest, most positive takeaway here is everyone, Bitcoin was created so everybody could have exposure. And there were some people kind of in the US, some institutions wouldn't, they wouldn't allow for their investors to own it. I think this US Bitcoin ETF, listen, Bitcoin is such a global asset, right? It's hard to believe that, and it's not hard to believe, but that this US Bitcoin ETF is such a big deal because, kind of anyone who's been in Bitcoin, we all know you can go buy Bitcoin. It's not hard to go buy Bitcoin.
You can have it.
Yeah. So
easier than a bank account in many cases.
Yeah, it's a really, really big deal here. I'll tell you what, we talked about it, was it last week or a couple weeks ago? The bottom line is that the only other coin with a futures contract that trades on the CME that could potentially be in another US approved ETF, it's Ethereum. We'll see if that starts to catch a bid relative to Bitcoin, because that would be quite powerful for Ethereum.
Extremely powerful.
Yeah. Not seeing like, okay, I've had a few people bring this up today. What do you make of the volume, Rob? Like, should we not have seen some blast off here? I mean, it is a daily. Day is not quite closed, but it's weird to me. We're seeing that pop. I like to say, the most interesting volume right now for Bitcoin, maybe for Ethereum, is on OTC networks. At least the most interesting, maybe not the most significant volume-wise, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm more interested in like who's buying size OTC right now, but it's not on the charts. What do you make of that?
I like to look at like relative volume. This is what I was kind of just eyeballing yesterday was, where's the majority of this hedging taking place, right? The institutions, the people who are providing liquidity in the CME Bitcoin futures, right, who are getting short these futures against the buyers that are going into the ETF, right? Where are they hedging? And to me, I saw a bigger relative bump in volume on Coinbase as opposed to Binance.
Yeah, let's go look at Coinbase. I don't look at their charts, weirdly. It's just never been.
Yeah. I mean, it just looked like a little bit of a relative bump, just like yesterday and today from Coinbase to Binance. But I want to know where is the hedging going? And if it really is concentrated in spot, then I think that we could potentially get into a supply squeeze. Right? Like, at what point do these hedgers who, it's flowing through, if the buying's flowing through to spot from futures, then, do we see an inventory problem where, the liquidity providers are having trouble sourcing physical Bitcoin to actually sell on Coinbase on these spot exchanges? I don't know, but
that's the big narrative, right? That's a lot of people talking about that. I saw a tweet. I can't credit it right now because I don't remember who it was off the top of my head, but they basically cited that 85% of Bitcoin's supply was in wallets that hadn't moved in over 90 days. And that was like maybe a week or two ago. Now, that's a bold claim. So being here on the stream, I should really have that source. I don't. So my apologies. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that is accurate because I feel like it was a pretty good account. I tend to try to follow relative, good accounts. But having said that, it's all noise here. I don't have the proof, but that's big. Yeah. I mean, that's the supply shock. That's, like you say, there's just, sorry guys, I don't have any to sell you. So you have to go buy it at a higher price. And I think Will Clement, it was probably Will Clement. He's one of those on-chain guys I like to follow. Anyhow, like, that's hyper Bitcoinization stuff. That's pushing us. That's rocket fuel. And
if you think about it, though, that is like the concern of commodities markets, right? Especially in stuff like oil or the grain markets, food stuffs, where when physical supplies get tight, you can't feed people bread through a wheat futures contract. You can't. You need the physical. So for commodities and stuff like that, this sort of supply squeeze becomes a reality, and you get that volatility to the upside that can get scary. In reality, Bitcoin is a similar type of asset. So I'm not saying this is going to happen, but these are the things in commodity markets when you have to deliver. Now, there's no delivering going on here, but the bottom line is you can only hedge so many futures with other futures until the liquidity providers need to own spot against it. So
is that a thing? I mean, I'm assuming there's the knock on, futures BTC because people are just buying a paper Bitcoin essentially. Where does it get backed? At what point, does it turn into what I've heard of the gold market in China, like this idea that there's just so much more paper gold than real gold? Like, where does that, is there regulation around that bottom line for them where they actually have to have some kind of holding of the Bitcoin they're basically selling a long future on or something?
Not if it's a futures based. No, they need US dollars. They need US dollars.
That's the big knock, I guess, right? It's a bit of a Fugazi, Bitcoin, perhaps.
Yeah, but if Bitcoin keeps running against US dollars, then the people who are just short, they eventually, you need Bitcoin exposure to to fight the Bitcoin gain against US dollars. So okay. I that's something that's kind of interesting to me. It's a much more clear-cut thing when you have a Bitcoin-backed ETF, right? Not futures. You actually have a physical backed, because then ideally it's one Bitcoin that represents, one share of the ETF or whatever multiplier they have. Then it's
Rob, is that what Barry Silbert's talking about? Converting the Grayscale trust to a physically backed ETF.
Yeah.
Do you have any color on that? I'm interested in hearing more about that.
It's all, I mean, this is all the same kind of regulatory story that we're dealing with. For whatever it's worth, the SEC and Gary Gensler, they approved the futures-backed ETF because the instruments that make this thing up are the CME traded Bitcoin futures, which are fully regulated by the CFTC in the United States. So they have more control over looking into market manipulation and all this stuff that they can do in these fully regulated CME futures market. Now, that's why they approved that. I'll tell you, they did not approve it because it is a better product or a better instrument for retail buyers. It's actually a much worse product for retail buyers. And that's why we see these guys like 2-Bit Idiot on Twitter getting really, really aggressive with tweeting and subtweeting Gensler and the SEC saying you're supposed to be protecting the retail investor. You're hurting them with this futures-backed ETF. Now, that's what Barry Silbert desperately wants to do. And he's, the biggest money manager in crypto. Like they manage the most funds, period, Grayscale. So he's been fighting this 20% discount that his Grayscale Bitcoin Trust trades to Bitcoin. And that is, that whole Grayscale Bitcoin Trust has been obviously talk of the town since we were showing the unlock schedule back in April and May. You remember that? We talked about that a lot. But,
yeah, the GBTC unlock, that was the big narrative of, gonna dump.
Yeah. So he wants to convert GBTC into the ETF. And that currently with this trust, how it's set up, there is no redemption, right? So there is no mechanism that can kind of arbitrage the GBTC price with the price of Bitcoin. It doesn't function that way. So he wants to convert it, but that is still going to take the SEC to approve that. And I don't think they're ready to approve a Bitcoin, like a physically backed ETF. In
a nutshell, what is their problem? No, what is their resistance to that? What is their risk? What is it about it that they're so scared of? They seem to be, it's such a big threat to their whole system that.
Yeah, no, it's the offshore stuff. For a while, it was that BitMEX was such a big amount of the volume of like flat price Bitcoin, even though it was a future. But it's Binance offshore. It's the fact that they don't control these other markets if it comes to looking into manipulation or whatever it is they're looking for. These other markets where spot trades, they're not regulated by the U.S.
Okay. So it's the idea that perhaps a foreign entity could manipulate their market more directly than maybe with the futures is all in-house for them.
It is usually the manipulation piece in past presentations from when they were rejected, these physical ETFs. It's been about manipulation. Some of it is also about the custodying the coin, right? Like imagine the ETF owner has a lot of Bitcoin and they lose it, right? You
lost my keys, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, big economic crash now. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
okay, fair enough. Maybe they just don't know enough. The systems aren't in place, not as proven. Futures, numbers on screens, Fugazis, they know those well.
Yep. Yeah.
So that makes sense.
We'll see. But Silbert announced a big $1 billion buyback of the Grayscale, and someone in the chat mentioned that, and also mentioned why wouldn't liquidity providers be buying this Grayscale GBTC at a 20% discount against these the ETF? and you can't short the ETF. So basically, liquidity providers have been putting on that trade. They've been selling futures contracts against buying the GBTC, but that has really gone in their face tremendously. And that relationship is stretched about as much as it has been kind of since this thing started trading at a discount. So anyone who's put that trade on, buying GBTC and selling futures against it, has really they've taken some unrealized P&L punishment here. So.
Okay. It's interesting to see. There's probably a lot more going on in the relationship directly with GBTC and Bitcoin, but it's interesting to see that GBTC has not made a new all-time high in the wake of this. I don't really fully understand that relationship there, but it's interesting. I mean, it's clearly not direct exposure. I know a lot of guys who think and are positioning themselves to get basically a larger return, ROI percentage-wise, on crypto stocks, mining stocks, things like that. Some of those that, Bitcoin goes on a bull run last year. I think Hut8, for example, I like to pick on. It's one that I traded, did something crazy like, let's go look so I don't misquote it. But yeah, like if you look at the Bitcoin chart and then you just do the ROI on some of these Bitcoin proxies. So that's another thing I'm looking at, something for people here that have stock accounts, don't shy away from looking into some of these. I'm not saying go buy Hut8. I don't own any of this right now. I took my doubles. I didn't reload in the reload zone because, I don't look at stocks very much. But what's your thoughts on that? Do you have a stock account? Do you do any exposure to crypto mining companies, all that stuff?
That looks sexy as hell.
This looks good. Yeah.
I
look at that reload zone. Just like, we'll just go down. W. Let's go.
Yeah. I like the mining space a lot. Gunny and I, we've got a private investment in a mining entity. Love the mining entity. I think how it's like a levered long Bitcoin play.
Yeah, that's essentially right, because you're like, okay, Bitcoin's the king, but you can in weird ways. Now my stock account's tiny; it's kind of off to the side in my life, but yeah, I definitely now is the time for me. And maybe it's a little late on Hut8, but Galaxy Digital. This is Mike Novogratz's fund. Can this come up from that reload zone and eventually make new highs if we're going to go into something? Will that ROI outpace? It's not as much about hey, let's get my crypto funds into that stock account because it's better, but I do have some funds there, so might take on a bit of this one. Yeah,
a lot of the reason people have these stock funds is for tax benefits, with 401ks and IRAs and all the stuff in the US, I guess. But
that's the thing, right? In Canada we get a TFSA, tax-free savings account, and you can manage that yourself. You can trade it. So tax-free sounds good to me. There's limits on how much you can put in and stuff, but
there's some great plays there. Then for a while, MicroStrategy was like the Bitcoin ETF, and we've talked about this before. Michael Saylor, I think, is going to be one of the kings of the whole simulation in some years.
Dude, I just see that picture Messi likes to post with his swollen face. If you could somehow send me that, I want to put on the screen. It's I literally laugh out loud every time you reply to something.
Sell your kidneys, sell your house, sell your children.
Yeah, there's no second best now.
There's no second best. It's Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin. What are you talking about?
It's amazing. Bitcoin. It's so good. It's so good. My girlfriend even gets a kick out of it. She's like, "What is that guy's face you keep seeing on your phone?" She's like, "Well, looking at my phone." Yeah, I had to tell her the story.
Let's be honest here. That among the crypto traders who have been here for a while,
Riot looks good. Sorry.
The big question. I think we all felt Bitcoin was going to do some really, really fun things here with the ETF. But the big question was altcoins and how badly would they get beaten up in Bitcoin terms, and if it was going to be a repeat, or if maybe things were a little looser with the USD pairs and all the stablecoin trade. Who knows? But I think that's one of the most interesting questions of the next stretch is how are altcoins going to trade with respect to Bitcoin here? And I'm seeing Messi, you had a tweet
ETH is moving.
an hour ago. Well, tell people what was the impetus for that tweet?
Okay, so of course, I've been a Bitcoin proponent for the last few weeks, and it was my thesis that Bitcoin ETF was high probability approval, and this is going to be the checkmate moment for Bitcoin. And you know what? It still might be, but here's what got me thinking. Every single time I've ever seen Bitcoin do its thing, right? There's this energy in the air. There's this buzz about it. And I think leading up to the ETF, that was very much still true. It was electric. You could feel that buzz. You could feel that energy, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. And I started to, I'm always looking at charts. I like being at my computer. Even if I'm not trading stuff, I love, fuck off, RT. Kevin from Avalanche posted that to make fun of me earlier.
I'm getting a kick out of these
OOOR
memes. I saw this one on your feed. Yeah.
All in good fun. All in good fun, of course. But I saw some of these alt charts, and we did get the moment, right? We've been sitting there on the edge of our seats for days. When is Bitcoin going to make a new all-time high? When is Bitcoin going to have this moment, that I was waiting for, that I had Bitcoin allocation waiting for? And, it made the new all-time high, and it was great. Yay, Bitcoin new all-time high. But I started looking at some alt charts, and I was like, fuck, why aren't they getting spanked? These actually look pretty good, what's going on here?
Yeah, AVAX is about to confirm bullish markets.
AVAX looks fantastic. So, of course, you get better returns on altcoins than Bitcoin. And you know what? Look, guys, maybe like me pivoting right here is just being premature because the old thesis is still, I'm not going to say very much in play, but very much possible that maybe Bitcoin has its melt up and then we see the spankings. But I'm not seeing it so far. And because I'm not seeing it, I did shift a lot of my Bitcoin exposure to my big DeFi play right now, which is Curve. And
You're getting me so fired up about Curve, man. I've got
huge.
a size, I've got a decent little CVX CRV staking on Badger Auto Compounder, but every time I hear you talk about it, I need to.
Curve is great. Now listen, so here's my thesis, and here's why. Even if I am wrong and Bitcoin does pull its melter, and fuck, the original thesis is right. Like, why did I prematurely ejaculate? Even if that ends up being the case, on my convex curve right now, I'm getting about 80% APR, not APY, APR. There's a huge difference between that. APR is simple interest. APY is compound interest, and that is fantastic APR. So it's my thesis that, look, Curve is extremely undervalued. In the meantime, I can sit around, I can be an incomber. I can sit there, I can accumulate convex. So the interesting thing, convex curve pays out in convex, it pays out in curve, and it also pays out in 3 curve, which is just dollars, straight dollar yield. How many things give you straight up dollars as yield, which I love. I'm trying to be an incomber. I'm trying to increase my stable stack because when it comes time to pay taxes, I don't want to say, fuck, where am I going to get this money from? I want to have that stress out of the way, and I want to be mindful of that. Like, that's pretty much like my whole, that's like the biggest pain point in my existence.
Here's the exciting thing is you can take that remaining degen bag, which I'm sure you're still going to have. You're going to have positions, right? And then maybe you just grow that right back. And suddenly your incomber is your new side ting, and you're back into DJ mode, and then maybe you're,
It very well could be that. Just the way I'm looking at it, though, fuck it. I'm going to stake all this. I'm going to do the convex curve thing. There's some really, really big stuff going on behind the scenes for Curve. Bank of America released a report a few days back suggesting that people use Curve for yield, which shows that the banks, the institutions, are looking at this shit and interested about
it. Be right
it.
back.
Like this was a report to their institutional investors. So I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to get the yield. I'm going to sit on it. Maybe one day Curve goes crazy and that ends up paying off big.
He's all right. He had a call he needed to take.
Oh, okay. He didn't mute his thing. Hopefully he walks far away enough from the microphone to not
he's not a mutor.
Yeah. He's not a mutor. But anyway, fuck, like, why I'm being paid so well to just sit around and wait for Curve's moment. Why not just do that? Sit around, wait for Curve's moment. If Curve never has that moment, well, guess what? The income is fantastic. And I really, really want to put myself in a position to where I have enough income to have that freedom in my life to where I can do whatever the fuck I want. So that goal in itself has already been accomplished. But if Curve goes ape shit and Curve goes to, yeah, you're very much live, RT. Anyway, but if Curve does decide, hey, we're going to go batshit, we're going to go to 15, 20, 30 bucks, then I also do have that exposure to the potential upside as well. So no matter what here, I win. Just really the question is, how big do I win? Because even right now, if Curve loses 30%, 40% of its value, the amount of income I'm generating is good enough to where that's still okay. I can just sit here and I can wait. Maybe I wait 3 months, maybe I wait 6 months, maybe I wait a year. It doesn't really fucking matter. But shit, guys, look at some of these alts. Look at AVAX. I think Curve looks great.
Hold up.
Ethereum looks great.
Hold the phone, my friend. I missed that. I just got a phone call. Rob knows the phone call I just got.
Oh, I do too.
You know the phone call I just got. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long road, and I'm not going to get emotional here, but I just got a house. I put in an offer this morning. And that was my real estate agent. She called me back. She said they conditionally accepted. They want, I don't know, another couple thousand, like literally a hand, like,
Let's fucking
0.1 Bitcoin. I said, sold. Let's go. So that's so big, guys. Look,
Huge.
4
Congrats.
years,
Congrats.
4 years in, and I tweeted this out the other night. It actually got more traction than I thought. It was just kind of like a momentary thought. And it's like, basement apartment, 2K savings, 15K debt, earning 60K a year, teaching, which is Canadian. That's before tax. It's not a whole lot. And we're 4 years in, and I just bought, I got a home. And for the crypto twist here, fuck the banks, because they shut me down for 3 mortgages in the last 3 years because they said, you are not worth enough, sir. You don't earn enough. You don't have enough on paper. We don't trust you. Well, fuck you guys, because I did it without you. Cash, baby.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, don't need all that. So
Land Own-oooor.
I'd love to sit here and say I did the Abra play and I'm earning yield on my home, but due to my corporate structure, it wasn't going to work out. I tried, but
He's the owner.
that's so exciting. I thought we had till 11 o'clock tonight. I didn't think
Property or
property owner. Yeah. So anyways, that's why I was on the phone. I wasn't secretly buying Curve as somebody speculated.
that's what that's just what he
yeah,
wants you to believe.
That's so okay. That's fucking
That's
hype. Let's
fantastic.
go. So that's closing date on November and end of November, and I don't have to move till Feb, so I'll get some time to set it up. Let's look at some altcoins. Let's look
do
at
it,
some
man.
altcoins.
The one thing I got to say, Messi, with respect to your thesis adjustor and rotator, you spoke about what's going to happen when Bitcoin continues to go up. Now, it isn't one of the reasons that people end up rotating because on any sort of sharp pullback after you do rally a ton, if Bitcoin pulls back, that on those pullbacks, the alt can just get smushed.
Yeah, they can get smacked pretty hard. Right now it's looking like some of these alts are a bit decorrelated. I don't know if that trend continues, but look, the scenario where the first thesis, the one that I pivoted from, plays out is the Bitcoin face melt.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Bitcoin right now. I don't know if Bitcoin's going to be a face melt. I could be wrong, but it could just be a healthy uptrend. Now, when we were looking at Bitcoin in December of 2020, that's a bit of a different story. Bitcoin was just $10,000, $20,000. We had those face melt moments. We had, oh my God, Tesla. Oh my God, this. Oh my God, that. Like there was all of this, catalyst level hype, and huge market buys, to go along with that hype. So the event where I would actually be, proven wrong, where I wouldn't be right here, is if Bitcoin just says, hey, we're going to do the classic Bitcoin, and we are just going to
Take no prisoners,
melt
up,
no mercy, up only. That's when your altcoins start to get kicked in the teeth. Maybe, I don't know. But you know what? I'm kind of stuck in this second thesis now, and like I said, it's not that bad of a place to be. You get 80% APR on convex curve. and I'm more than happy to wait it out. Maybe dog season's in January, maybe it's right now, maybe Bitcoin consolidates right now. I just don't fucking know.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here and just lay out, I think, a more concrete plan of action, because look, and it's crypto, it's markets. We love conjecture. We love to say, oh, this is going to happen, then that's going to happen. And I'm with you. I do it all the time. But, Beamish, wise man, he always says, he's like, fuck predictions, like trade the plan, trade the trend, look at the chart. What does it tell you? Bitcoin's trending up. Okay, let's be bullish on Bitcoin. ETH is trending up. Let's be bullish on ETH. And yeah, you can get into the cross pairs and decide, and then, say, okay, so which one am I going to be bullish on? Well, let's go, let's check the cross, okay. Like right now, that's a 5-minute, ETH is outperforming. All that to say, maybe we get to December. I see a lot of people saying like, I'm going to get soft in November. I'm like, why? You don't know what's going to happen in November. You don't know what news is going to drop in November, what the trend will be. It's fun and games. We're humans. We like to have a plan, but like, let's trade what's on the chart, because right now I can be bullish on Bitcoin. Not in a very good location. I don't really want to start loading up at Bitcoin right here. But if I can say, curve sitting here right above the PCC, for example, because it's on my chart, there's a lot of them. And so all that to say, that's my takeaway after all of the guessing, and it's kind of exhausting, right? You get the 4-year cycle talk where, and let's be honest, all of us are sitting here like, hey, bullish Q4, December gets shaky, bear market. It's in our brains. It's stuck in our heads. It's really hard to escape the gravity of that idea. But I am, more inclined this time around, at least having learned what I did about charting over the years, to really just wait for that trend to reverse. Let it run. Give up your last 30% at the highs to make sure you capture the whole trend. And you can go back to like Bitcoin in 2017 and find out what people, who didn't do that. God, it looks so small back there. Oh God, we've come so far. But like, right here, it's like, ooh, that was the high. We get what was this, November? What was November? Oh, I thought that was the September China ban. I guess that was back here. Like all of these parts where people just call tops and then miss the best part of it. And if they had just waited for the trend to break, you can actually see it on a weekly time frame, I think. Was it the daily? Really, it was here, right? So you have the high, you have the lower high. Okay, we have a lower low. And the sickest part about that, and we say it all the time, and it often is the case, even after that confirms, you can get out in something like a short reload zone. And so what did I miss here, right? By chasing that trend, 13% off the highs. If I'm just sitting in spot Bitcoin and that's my one play, right? But trying to play that game this whole way up, it's tricky. Right here, you would have got your trend reversal. You would have got out in this short reload zone and probably had to buy back on that bullish retest. Oops, I was wrong. That's how I'm thinking about this right now. I have some altcoins. I have some Bitcoin. I am certainly more in the boat of like, okay, Bitcoin's going ham. I'd like to have a bag. And then the altcoins I have, as you guys know, is it's mostly like ice spell time. It's a lot of that DEX stuff that doesn't trade high liquidity with market makers across centralized exchanges, because those, I feel like with the BTC pairs, they take the biggest hits. So that's kind of where I'm at. I was on a bit of a rant today in the Discord saying that, because everyone's in there just like, well, I think this and I think that, and that's fair. Like, have your thoughts, develop a thesis. You should work from a thesis. But I just got lost in it. And I said, man, you know what? Fuck that. I'm just going to trade these trends and buy some bullish throwbacks. And just keep it simple. Not worry about, is it November, December, February, March. The chart will show us. The market will send us the message, right?
Yeah. The bottom line is, like, the seasonality talk, everything, it's all just based on probabilities. You want to try to put the odds in your favor. I mean, period. This shit moves so fast. I mean, how long ago was it when literally Messi was like the fucking grizzly bear?
It wasn't that long ago.
He's hoping we weren't going to bring that.
It just right here. How fast the market can change, and also how well you can do if you can be flexible with the market, and you do have the ability to pivot, to reevaluate the way you're thinking about things. If you would have told me at the peak of my bear depression, if you would have told me that Messi in 3 months the position you're going to be in, you would have never even been able to imagine in your wildest dreams. I would have just told you to shut the fuck up, and then I don't believe it. Like,
you would have thought the odds were how low? Seriously.
I mean, less than 1%, extremely low. But you know what? Like it's just funny, you know, how that works. And look, you know, look, guys, the bull market, it doesn't last forever. You know, one thing that is still up in the air, and this is a thesis, and I think it's a very strong thesis, is this super cycle thesis. You know, we have all of these things going for crypto now. This is what adoption looks like. You know, do we still have that crypto bear market to where Bitcoin goes negative 80%, to where the blue chips go negative 80%? Or is it different now? You know, are we going to have shorter bull and bear phases with maybe 30 to 50% corrections? And if so, you know, what's the best way to play that? You know, because we're all so conditioned to say Bitcoin goes up, you know, it's great, and then
crash.
we have these 2-year bear markets.
80% has to be, yeah. It always has, guys.
Painful,
so it always will.
Nobody cares. Yeah, it always has. It always will. You know, but here's the thing, like, maybe that's not the case anymore. But the scary thing here, and also the exciting thing, is how do we position ourselves to maximize our potential in this market, knowing that the future is unknown? And I think we can allude to what RT said earlier, and that you just have to, you know, trade the chart in front of you. You just
let the market, let the market talk to you, and don't get too set. I guess is my takeaway there is don't get too set in an idea where you're just like, oh, I'm just going to hold this. It'll be back someday. Bro, it might not. Whatever it is you're talking about, it just might not. So if it's like trending down, or if it's broken through the bullish thing you were trading or something, get the fuck out. Nobody has a clue what's going to happen. I'm going to quote Dan Gunsberg here. Nobody knows anything from the audience. Danny, on a trip out west, I believe, he might still be out there, but couldn't join us today live. He is in the audience dropping the usual alpha, and that's it. Nobody knows. And so trading is not about knowing. We talk about this all the time. It's about building, you know, a risk and reward setup around a series of probabilities, ideally based on repeatable, identifiable criteria. That's at least the way I do it with charts. So, you know, positioning yourself, rotating out. There's a few golden rules that I love. And the number one is, you know, small losers, big winners, cut losses. So easier said than done. But paying yourself. You know, I had to make a big decision this month, this week actually, about buying this house. You know, banks like, nah, we can't give you a mortgage. I was like, go fuck yourself. So I'm gonna find bags. I'm gonna find things that I can take it out of. And yeah, for that moment, I feel like I miss that position. But
you won't regret it, man.
I'm paid, and I've got a house now. It's an asset.
I had to do pretty much the same thing. And granted, you know, it's a bit different, but at the same time, I still remember, you know, it was kind of painful thinking about like taking, you know, that portion of what could be out. But, you know, once you secure something like that, and you have those real assets in the real world, you know, that you have that ownership of, there's absolutely zero regrets.
And I held those bags because I'm bullish on them, particularly in Q4. And a lot of them that I'm going to have to trim, you know, I bought them for the next few months. And so I was going over this with my fiance all week, and she's like, so let me get this straight, though. At the end of the day, the only risk, like the worst case, is that you could have made more, right? That's the risk. That's the downside risk to like just going for this house. I was like, yeah, when you put it that way, it's, you know what I mean? And so, okay, maybe it's not a house. Maybe you're looking at a car. Maybe you're looking at a new computer. Maybe you're just trying to pay off a small old debt. I'll tell you what, I paid off a debt in September 2017 when Bitcoin was like 3K, and I sold, I think, 3 of them to pay off my debts. They ran to 20K later that year. I didn't sweat it one bit. I was debt free. I was trading from strength. I was focused. I no longer panicked at all the dips. I mean, I still did, but you know, not as heavily, because I had a lot of skin in the game relative to, you know, what I had back then. And so as soon as I paid that debt, I could see things clearly.
Always, guys, always. And you know,
so
I feel
this
like
might keep going, but
this horse for a while. But if you ever have the opportunity to improve your real life, you know, improving your real life, that lasts forever, you know. And with this crypto stuff, there's so many unknowns. So right now, if you're looking at your portfolio and you're saying, I have the opportunity to pay off my mortgage right now and still have skin in the game for this crypto bull. So if I am right, this skin that I still have in the game is going to be worth a lot more, right? But if I end up being wrong, at least I went ahead and I took care of these things that helped me out in the real world. Like RT was saying, whether that's credit card debt, whether that's a car note, whether that's a mortgage, whether that's student loans. If you have the opportunity right now, this second, to put yourself in a better position in the real world, do it. You will not regret it ever.
Yeah, because when the dust settles,
it's gonna be worth a shit ton if you were right anyway. So
exactly.
So why not go ahead and take that risk off the table? And look, let's say Bitcoin
lock it in,
crashes like crazy, and goes to $10,000, right? Extremely unlikely. But if that does happen,
possible,
you're not going to sweat it. You're going to look back and you're going to feel good that you did something to help yourself out in the real world. Trust me, I promise you on this.
Yeah. So it really comes down to that, So my worst case, anyone's worst case when they take profit at a time like this, look, we just broke to new highs. Is this, looking back, it's going to be like, oh man, and we go on to this crazy run and you're like, oh, all this profit taking right here. But look, if you've been in positions this year, if you've been around, there's probably some profit there. I'm not sitting here preaching, go take profit. I guess for people that are really worried, if you're sweating decisions, the profit take core, I guess it's just ring the cash register once in a while, little bits. I would have much preferred to just skim a little each month, but in this case, I had to take a bit of a lump sum, and it makes it a harder decision. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever regret it. And like you said, when things roll over, they always do from some level, we'll have a nice little retrace. Maybe it's 130K back down to 85, whatever it is. At that moment, you'll be sitting on whatever you paid yourself with, and you'll feel good about that, or you can, ape it back in on the dip. So it's just one of those oft forgotten pieces here. It's all about what to buy. And I think it's good to have that conversation around, if you're a trader, especially, the market's not going to pay you. You got to pay yourself.
Guys, I hate to be this guy, but it needs to be said. Taxes fucking suck. Most of you are going to have to pay taxes on all of this money you've made. And you can take it from me. You do not want to be in a position where, and granted, it just worked out for me that, I happened to lose all of my money at the right time to where I didn't have massive obligations, but it still was really painful when my portfolio was depreciated so much, saying, fuck, I've got to sell a lot of this now.
I definitely sold stuff during the bear market.
You've got to put some dollars to the side on the way up. And look, I'm going to tell you an easy way to do this. Let's say, you've got $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, right? And you're a huge Bitcoin bull, and Bitcoin is super bullish and it's going up. Well, let's say, at the end of the day, you look at your position and now it's $110,000 worth of Bitcoin. Why not shave that 10 off? Now you've got $100,000 worth of Bitcoin and $10,000 of cash.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's still going up. The next day, you've got $110,000 again. Shave that 10 off, because let me tell you what's going to happen. This is DCAing out of your position, but maintaining a solid base, maintaining that core position. What's going to happen is, as this goes up, you're going to continue to shave off dollars. And one of these days, Bitcoin's going to nuke. It's going to do what it does. It's going to correct, right? And instead of you saying, fuck, I didn't sell the top, what am I going to do? You're going to be looking at your stack, and you have two options. You're going to say, hey, I've got all this cash now. Maybe I'll buy the dip. Or maybe you can say, I can just maintain this core position, and then when I get back to that baseline again, that $100,000, I can start repeating as Bitcoin continues to go up. But you do need to figure out a way to pay yourself.
Yeah, just have a plan.
And pay yourself over time. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like, let's say you're trying to get it all in cash, by the end of December or the end of January, or just have some kind of plan and objective to where every now and then you're going and you're saying, I'm going to sell 1% of everything I have today. It feels good. Try it.
Yeah, it's good practice anyways, because it's the grass never stays this green forever. Again, not here to ring alarm bells, guys. Hey, it's new all-time high day. I'm super fucking bullish on this market going forward, and I mean in a sense of 2 months, 2 years, 7 years. I still think the 2020s in general will just be an emerging market, a generational asset class, and that's why I'm here. That's why we're here. But all the way along, protecting that capital is something maybe not often talked about enough. It's not very sexy, right? What are you trying to tell me, that maybe this will go down? It's like, well, at some point. Anyways, skimming in during extreme greed, averaging in is really hard to do during extreme fear, right? We did a bit of that in July. I was adding to some Solana bags. I am out of those now. And as it turns out, I was actually just noticing the other day, like, damn, brah, you got to pay yourself, right? So extreme fear, just, sliding into some positions down here. This was really hard to sell. Like, Ray's going to go to all-time highs. It just did. And I sold the last of it at this chaos PRZ. And for about 4 days.
Only in crypto. Look at that fucking chart.
I know. Just
I can't tell looking at that chart though.
For 4 days.
Is that calling up for like a massive rip, or is that like shades of BTC?
No, this one.
2018?
Well, this one doesn't trade
down. You have that little, distribution, and then you've got another markdown.
It doesn't trade versus Bitcoin, thankfully. Yeah, this thing's in the PCZ. Look. Point being, for 4 days, I thought I was an idiot. I felt bad. It was worth more than when I sold it. I sold a little here, sold a little there. But look at it now, right? A month later, and now I'm like, oh shit, okay, so that actually did work out. I was just looking through Solana charts the other day. I was like, damn, even though I didn't nail it, and for 4 days I felt like, okay, that wasn't ideal. Look, now it's here. It's looking like it could confirm a little bullish market structure reversal here. New trade, new setup, but only possible because I had almost like the balls to start cutting positions during this. I mean, it's really hard to do, but if you look back in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC, like that was a nice little cycle, and let's trade the next one. So that's one way to do it, and that's why I love the chaos PRZs, because shit is chaotic when it gets up there. I mean, if you ever hit one of these targets off of a low consolidation, it just feels blissful. It's like, oh, but it's so hard to train yourself to pull the trigger. And even when I think, oh, this is the right thing to do, you still have your short-term regrets sometimes, and maybe it kept going. But that's what we do, man. You got to trade, and that's two parts to that, right? Get in, get out. So what else are you guys seeing in the market? Let's get into some charts. I think there's a lot of juice. We've definitely laid on the broader picture thoughts. What do you got?
I'd like to take a look at Solana. I haven't charted it personally, but I did see a chart posted on Twitter earlier today, and it looked quite good.
I was just typing it in as, this is going to be my first one as well.
Great minds, great minds.
Yeah. So look, this is, let's zoom out. Let's see, where have we come from?
ETF.
This one pretty much ran the hardest, especially out of any kind of major since the lows. Obviously, again, look, Chaos PRZ. I sold some here, felt really stupid, sold the rest here out of spite, and managed to pick some up, So like, there's a trade. Where is it going right now? I think it needs to break. Arguably, it's already back into bullish market structure back here, and then this was the dip. So this is yet another confirmation of that. If we can close the daily above, what is it, 172, that would be sort of further confirmation of that. But technically, we've been out of this downtrend now since basically October 1st, but not making much noise, right? I mean, nobody's talking about Solana right now in that kind of hype sense that it was before. I mean, it was all over socials.
You know why? I think, and I spoke to some of the guys there, they didn't have the big incentive program, the big
that's a good point.
180 million, 250 million, that big announcement of,
They were overshadowed for a little bit by that, for sure. Yeah, that was this flavor for October.
But think about this. If they can keep up and keep relative value compared to the chains and the networks that did these monstrous incentive programs, that's fucking bullish. I mean, that's not like some...
Hey, Rob, what do you think the odds are that at the Solana conference that we're going to in Lisbon in a few weeks, SBF or somebody just comes out and announces like $1 billion incentives program for Solana? Or that... I figured they're going to have some kind of juice saved up for that conference. It's their inaugural. Is it their inaugural, like the first major one, like Seoul 2021? Because if it is, you better believe that they're saving up something for that. That's just part and parcel to having a major, conference. So, is it going to be an incentives program? Could it be $1 billion? Could it be more? Like they got deep pockets. I need more Solana. All this, I'm getting myself excited. I have a little bag. Relative.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly. I think you want to thrive without it if you can. If you can, I think you want to thrive without it. I don't think they're going to do it, and I think that's fine. But
Like, yeah, I don't think they need it. There's a ton
Yeah.
of liquidity over there. I mean, they're LPs, they're market makers like on Sabre and stuff like that. But I'll be honest, with Radium and stuff, I don't. There's a lot of slippage. There is still a lot of slippage on their swaps, relative to like Uniswap, even Joe in a lot of cases. So it would be nice to get some farms over there and get people a little more engaged.
Yeah.
But they need to fix their bridge, man. I struggled with their bridge for a while. I had to resend funds back. Yeah, because it's something, not to get too into it, but it's something to do with the way they have to make like new little wallets for each asset in some cases.
Yeah.
But then other times you're kind of living in one SPL wallet. It's confusing coming from EVM and admittedly just getting into the on-chain DeFi stuff with AVAX. I went to Solana and I was left wanting. So hopefully they get that wormhole bridge a lot friendlier.
Yeah.
And we can run. Look, I think something big is probably coming around that conference. It makes sense. This is obviously like a market-wide candle today, so can't say this is like Solana specific, but
No, it's outperforming. I mean, Solana today it's up 7.5% or whatever, and it's up 10.5%. That's just from yesterday's daily close.
oh yeah, 10.5.
Bitcoin's
Yeah.
up too. I mean, it has been. Let's pull up the Solana BTC chart.
Yeah, that's the ticket. This is actually the one that had me staying a little bit out of Solana. You know, once we lost this level and retested, I just said, I'll come back. Like, I've got Bitcoin. And this was my, you know, is it something like this where so far it's actually kind of following that. But the idea that, you know.
Today's a good.
But look, the buy volume is outpacing. There's not a whole lot of selling on the down days going on here. There's more buying on the little green candles here. So it could be building for something nice. Again, there is the catalyst. There's the conference coming out in a few weeks. This is in a gross zone, and I've noticed this a lot where it goes through the PCZ. So I'm like, okay, no play there. Never makes it to the reload zone. This is kind of my no man's land. I struggle with this level, so we'll see. But I'd like to see this trend reverse. You know, let's get a low, let's come up, let's get a higher low, let's break that, and then it's like take that next whatever it is. I mean, that's an easy trade, and it's one I definitely want to make with my Bitcoin.
I will tell you. Remember the Mike Novogratz Luna tweet?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like $6 or something.
Yeah, 5 I think, and he's like 7 and 12. He was talking about
that thing.
I was back here. Jesus,
that's catching some serious flow.
I like Luna, and I'm disappointed. I learned, as you do, right? You learn more about stuff when the price starts to run, and you go, what's going on here? Is this just flash in the pan? And of course, UST is seeping into the spell and abracadabra conversation, and the more UST, the more Luna is burned. Like it's got rocket fuel, I think, but I don't know that I want to buy it here. I'm also not much of an investor, especially like unless I'm getting in at like nasty lows. But maybe there's a trade there, continuation or something. But do you have any Luna, Rob? You got some exposure to the loon?
I'm exposed.
There's a story there. I won't make you tell the story. Yeah, I know a guy who's holding a thing. I got a little piece. Yeah.
No, I'm exposed. I think there's it's a good model. The UST, I keep hearing we got Coach Popovic in the chat, who's talking about potential, UST pairings on Binance, and I think like the wormhole, like the jump trading guys, they like Luna. It seems that there's some big money that does really, really like Luna. And we used to see him, what's his name? I know his Twitter handle is like Stable Quam or something, but he was at all the conferences overseas. That dude is working hard. He's out there. I think
sending out the message. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a Korean-based entity that they're.
I saw a talk. Somebody, TRI guys have been really bullish on Luna for a while here, and I just never looked past the ticker. But God, I didn't know it was an L1. That's just like I did the same thing with Link. You see the ticker, you hear people hype it. I think there's a bit of what you call information overload, perhaps. Just getting too many DMs. By the way, like if you guys are sending me things because you're like, hey, this is valuable, I appreciate RT, I'm going to hook them up, keep doing it. I appreciate that, guys. But with all of the messages and with all of the tickers and Twitter and chats, like I definitely get overwhelmed and often just turn my brain off and miss 80% of it. And Keo said in the chat a second ago, which I think is an important point. He said, every day I have to say to myself, you can't have a position in everything. Because, all high tides rise all boats. I think that we could be in for a major bull market here. Continuation, I should say. We've been in quite a nice bull for the last, month, perhaps excluding September. But I think we could be in for a real big continuation. So it's really like, how do you narrow down what you're going to have action on? Because I've had the too many positions scenario, and it's ugly. You end up missing exits and stuff.
You know what? One of the things that comes about when we start, we've got all-time high talk and all-time high on the mind, is people looking at some of their favorite alts and looking at how far is this thing to its previous all-time high. Like, look at SUSHI. SUSHI's one that a lot of smart people I know, they love it. They own a lot of it. They're making Sushi X or X Sushi.
Going multi-chain now. I saw them over. They're on Arbitrum. They're on
it's 50,
Polygon.
It's 100%. It's going to rally 100% to get to its all-time high again.
You're saying, so now that we're doing an all-time high thing with Bitcoin and that, what else can go to its all-time high?
Start. That is the connection. That is the mentality that people start to get. It's like, okay, you start thinking all-time high. Well, then wait, Bitcoin all-time high, when it kind of chills out, well, what are my favorites that have the most to run to get back to all-time high, where there might be the psychological resistance that comes into play? I mean, that's like the natural psychological, to me, pattern that people start to look at when they look at charts.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And then you have the buying power. If it's like, hey, everything to all-time high season, then there's just basically that bid up until those levels, regardless of the rest. But it sounds like, we've talked about Sushi quite extensively, through here. Yeah. You think there's something more there than just let's speculate it up 2x, like long term?
I don't know. All I'm saying is, like, if it starts to run and everything else is like nearing all-time highs or making all-time highs, some of those might have a little more room to run. You might see some more freakish moves, like it's up 30-40% in a day type of thing. If you catch it, it's like, these are all the psychological things that come into play that with trading, right? In these cycles, you start, these all-time high markers become a thing once all-time highs start breaking. And Bitcoin is obviously the leader here, and so
I love it. I'm so far from like I can't wait, because like, admittedly, I've got some Bitcoin and it goes up and it's a big day, but I'm used to altcoin returns, right? I like those just like face melt. But man, when Bitcoin goes to all-time highs and gets into this mode, it is the eyeballs of the world watching. It is making headlines and news. And you get moms and pops and the retails, and they're coming in, they're saying, hey, this is now a market that I want to participate in, because that's human nature. We want to get involved in things, and that's how you get your cycles. But what do they do when they get here this year, Rob? They buy $66,000 Bitcoin. Maybe a day later they look over and they say, whoa, what is this coin? Because the one thing that alts do really well is they paint a picture. They build an idea in a community and like this whole world changing. Bitcoin perhaps has one of the most profound impacts on the planet, arguably, with just that base financial reserve asset, freedom to send and receive. But the altcoins, they paint really nice pictures, right? You have your marketing around them and the branding, and the coins are not so expensive often. So I think this is setting the stage for, a wave of interest in all things, but particularly altcoins.
I agree. I think
that's the funnel.
Yeah, that's also a positive thing about Coinbase. Really kind of, there's been some good headlines there. They're going to be the, official sponsor of the NBA and WNBA. And like, you want to see Coinbase and FTX, the more sponsorship money they get, the more like into to normal like hobbies, normal things that are going on in life, getting no coiners, getting like normies into this. Coinbase, for instance, yeah, they've got tons of shit coins listed there. That makes me a little more bullish shit coins. Like it just kind of does. So like you said, are people going to want to buy $66,000 Bitcoin? Or are they going to want to buy 1 million Shiba Inu?
Well, yeah, like why are they here, right? Are they suddenly like, hey, financial system's going to crash, I got to buy Bitcoin because it's the lifeboat? No, they're here. The people that I think are flooding in now, I mean, maybe some of them, but en masse, it's like, ooh, number go up. And so what are they here for? To speculate, to make money. And I think very quickly when you buy Bitcoin, you learn that there's 6,000 other coins, and those returns can be nicer, and they move quicker, and there's more volatility, and they probably will start running, and that's when you get that public mania, which I think we could be headed here in the next little bit. Yeah. So that's exciting. It's exciting to think about. I think psychologically speaking, it's a no-brainer that the herd will trickle into those. And then you get your liquidity cycles, and all that Bitcoin gets piled back into the alts, and I don't know about when, not worried about it. I think positioning myself, like, admittedly, I've just been focused on things like time, which, by the way, just broke out of this nice little downtrend today. AVAX is starting to move. This thing's kind of, related. But I would like to, like Messi, start thinking about looking at these Bitcoin charts again, if not positioning myself if there's, like Solana's not quite ready versus Bitcoin, I don't think, but there's definitely a few. Yeah. There's got to be. Let's look. Fuck it. We're here now.
Yeah.
Got my Bitcoin pairs chart.
One of the things about what are people going to look to? Is it Bitcoin? Is it others? I mean, you're seeing more and more, like today, Paul Tudor Jones, who I really respect as an investor, and he started really singing Bitcoin's song over this last 9 months. But even this morning, I think on CNBC, in his opinion, he said, this inflation is not transitory, and he said Bitcoin and crypto is his preferred hedge to gold, and he reiterated that. And the more people, PTJ, he's a boomer, like through and through. He's older, so the more people who look up to him, and they continue to see him talking about this, and we know here, like, whether inflation is transitory or not, the bottom line is prices are going higher. Like the cost of even meals, we were talking today about going out and grabbing lunch now, it's like $20, like easy. Whereas like lunch used to be $10. And we were talking about it just a few hours ago. Like the bottom line is people are feeling prices going higher. So if that is the feeling and they are nervous about it, and you're seeing Paul Tudor Jones and other guys saying, I'm hedging with Bitcoin and crypto, that is very positive.
Yeah, and look at the gold Bitcoin chart. I love to pull this up when you bring it up. I mean, can you see a pattern here? Like, what is the preference? I mean, a lot of this is driven by Bitcoin, coming out on the scene, and it was tiny micro cap, and this makes sense, but it's been pretty liquid now for a little while, above $1 trillion market cap, and there's a strong preference being illustrated on the chart here for Bitcoin versus gold.
Yeah.
Strong preference.
Yeah, no, I saw a great meme the other day about Peter Schiff, and it was a play on that rich,
yeah.
And it was rich son, poor dad.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. I retweeted that one too. I got a kick out of that.
That was hilarious.
Never underestimate the ability of the internet to
it's a shame.
Create funny things.
He basically has the same damn thesis, and just him being so hard-headed and I guess feeling threatened by Bitcoin, he's done a disservice to all his followers.
That's the shame, That's the shame. I was going to say, like, a lot of people like to be like, oh, have fun staying poor. Bro, he's probably doing just fine. It's his followers that I feel ashamed for or feel sad for, because he is driving a bus, And there was a lot of people on that bus, and they are loading up on gold, and now they're sitting there with their heavy ass bags underwater.
And his thesis is the same.
And he's still beating the horse. Yeah, he can't change now. It's too late in the game. He had his, you know, I think mentally there's just no way he could be like, fine, I was right. Like it would be like the biggest mic drop of, you know, all time. Okay, guys, I was wrong. Let's buy the top. Like, you know, he would mark the top if he ever buys Bitcoin. You all better pray Peter Schiff does not ever decide to publicly endorse Bitcoin over gold, or we are headed for a mess.
So Messi, beside curve, right? You're such a curve-oor. You are a curve.
Oh yeah.
Curve-oor.
Oh yeah.
But what else? What else were you looking at that you were like, you know what? I don't know if this is gonna get smushed.
You know, right now I have a few plays on. You know, Wonderland, of course, just continuing to sit there and manage that position. You know, it's doing super well. I've also got Spell. Spell, I've got a longer term thesis on. You know, I've got a lot of Spell, and I'm just like, for me, I don't think I want to realize those gains for a few reasons. One, I can borrow against it if I ever need to, which is fantastic. You know, two, it's one of the few assets that profits from volatility. And in a bear market, it becomes extremely valuable because people are going to want to leverage their farming. You know, when the yields get shitty, you're going to have to leverage your farming to make any money. And all of that is a value add to Spell. So my plan right now, you know, I bought some Spell OTC off a guy a month or two ago. And I just want to continue to take that Spell and stake it every few days and just leave it and not have those tax consequences, you know, not have any realized gains on it. Just see where it goes. I don't need to realize the gains on it. We'll see what happens.
Spell looks good.
It looks very
The chart looks good. I just like the product. I mean the chart looks great.
Yeah, it's a great product.
Thing
you know,
I'm building
using
is
the product
it's
heavily.
just cool.
You know, I leveraged a big time last night at like 2 a.m. I noticed that more MIM became available in the 3-curve cauldron. So what I did,
I missed it. I slept on it. Yeah, you got to get it quick.
Is it already gone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Oh yeah. It was gone before I woke up.
Yeah,
I saw you talking about it at 3 a.m., bro. I can't stay up till 3 a.m.
It's too lucrative. So what I actually did, you know, I had some 3-curve on Avalanche, you know, and the yield there was good too because of Avalanche Rush, like 20%. But the thing is, you know, if I could leverage that 3-curve and leveraging that is very safe because it's a stable coin. You know, I allow some tolerance, you know, for price fluctuations, mild depegging, etc. But I actually took all of my 3-curve from Avalanche, bridged it back over to Ethereum, and I leveraged it at 90% LTV on Abracadabra and looped it 5 times. So I have literally a godly stack of stables now that I'm farming with through Abracadabra. I mean, absolute god mode stack of stables, like fucking enormous. So I think I'm actually ended up getting 40-50% yield on those stables through Abracadabra.
Just like looping it and all that.
Yeah, the power of magic internet money.
Look, and there's a lot of guys, I'm just going to interject here because I know that's confusing. And for you guys, I hang out with, you know, Daniel, and like I hang out with Messi and we talk, and I still have not looped yet. So if you guys are watching this and you're like, man, all this talk of DeFi, all these cool products.
He's a no-looper.
Yeah, I'm a no-looper. We will come on here, or at least I will on one of my solo streams. I'm going to come on here as I learn it, and I'm going to, you know, we're going to walk through it. Not like hold your hand down the leverage ladder, because I'm not down to like help people over leverage their lives. But I do agree that there needs to be more content out there about specifically how
nobody's doing that.
Fuck, do you do this?
Nobody's how.
Let me tell you why. And this is an interesting thing I've learned about DeFi recently, is because nobody wants you in their pool, right? I'm not saying specifically, you know, Messi sitting here like, get out of my pool. It's a 3-curve pool. There's 400 million, like billions. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Whatever. But like, for example, and I'll pull it up, Alan the other day, he learned this lesson the hard way. He tweeted out in the morning like, OMG, you guys are so dumb selling Solana when you could be getting 80% on a, you know, Solana versus Solana pair. And then like later that day, I tweet out how to earn 80% APY on the SOL you should hold for years. crickets, blah, blah, blah. And then later that day, he's just like, someone shit in my soul pool.
That's
right.
That's the guy who's gonna come in and shit in the fucking pool.
So if you're ever wondering, like, why can't I find good content about how to get into DeFi and yield and all this stuff? It's because most of it, the majority of it, the good stuff is best kept secret. Because as soon as you open it up, as soon as it's a popular play, it's not like your altcoin where you want people in, right? Everyone's going to show their altcoins on Twitter because the more people are interested in buying, the more they get, the more price goes up. With yields, it's the exact opposite. Having said that, I'm not heavy in a lot of yield plays. I'm happy to walk through a few of them. Let's go shit in some pools next week. So that's, look, just lightweight stuff. I don't think about, specifically where, but more like the how, because I would like to be out there.
We'll get it done.
Yeah, we'll put that out.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. So this is something, you guys that have known me for a while know that I've been a big Keeper DAO fan. And you know what? 3 or 4 days ago, something special happened with Keeper DAO. And, of course, Keeper DAO has fallen off the map. Nobody talks about it. Nobody cares about it. It's
still holding your Rook, bro.
It's whatever. But
look at that.
Here's the trump card. Here's the alpha factor. Keeper DAO has a treasury worth over $100 million. And as opposed to many DAOs, this treasury isn't all Rook. You've got a lot of these coins that have these big treasuries, but then you look at it, the treasury's in their native token. It's like, okay, what the fuck good is that? Because, to get anything done, you're going to have to sell your own native token. That crushes the price. So, the incentives there aren't aligned for growth. It's just not. But with Keeper DAO, that treasury is Ethereum, Bitcoin, stable coins, and a little bit of Rook, but mostly the Ethereum, Bitcoin, and stable coins. So
3 pool
governance went live for Keeper DAO. And what that means is that, hey, the DAO is now in control of the treasury. How do we use it? So it's my idea that not only does Keeper DAO have these internal revenue sources from just what it does, right? Offering its limit order services, offering its protection services on CDPs, collateralized debt positions. But also, why don't we put this treasury to work? And why don't we turn Keeper DAO into a cutting edge DeFi hedge fund and a name in DeFi, a DeFi powerhouse of sorts, and start establishing external revenue streams for the treasury in addition to these internal revenue streams that already exist. So I actually bought in pretty big to Keeper DAO. I've always had a decent bag that I've held for a while, staked on Bancor. But I decided, hey, this moment is what I had been waiting for a long time. I can afford to be a big participant in this moment. Let's get it. Let's do it. Let's see where we can push this. So you
need Rook to influence the vote?
Yes, you do. You're going to need Rook to influence the vote. Okay. So I made sure to do that. Yeah. And the other larger Rook holders are very interested in doing what I'm talking about as well. You guys should see the Discord. It's a massive community effort. But kind of the talk of the town recently has been that Keeper DAO has been discussing buying like $30 million of Curve or Convex. And the reason you do that is because he who controls the yield controls DeFi. So the kicker here and why people are so bullish on Convex is because one Convex actually controls 8 Curve. Now, okay. So
from a voting perspective.
Okay. So one Curve is worth about $3. So the idea is that, hey, I can come in, I can buy Convex, and we can control Curve. Now, the advantage of controlling Curve is that every week Curve votes on where are we going to steer the yield? What pools get what yield? How much? Does this pool get any yield? Does that pool get any yield? So Andre Cronje, I've never learned how to say his last name. Cronje.
I don't know. I just made that up.
He made this incredible thing for bribing these people that wield the voting power. And that's becoming this huge force in DeFi. And you can see through a couple of different apps, people are now going to Convex and these people that are staking Convex, and they're saying, hey, we will pay you our tokens for you to vote to steer the yield towards our project. And that's just become this huge revenue source for people that are actually vote locking and staking their Convex. So what if Keeper DAO could become a major player in the Convex and the Curve wars? And Keeper DAO becomes this kind of meta governance token to where, look, income is great, but on that scale, what's even better is power. Power is priceless.
Governance wars.
Which is
the ultimate outcome for a governance token, right? We hear so much about them this year, and it was like, hey, we got this cool new altcoin. We're going to do a pre-sale. We're going to do a public sale. We got a governance token. But if the network has no value, then controlling the power over that network doesn't have much value. So we may be seeing the first real iteration of like a massive power war.
So of course on Convex yesterday, Tetranode catches wind of our plans. Tetranode being one of the largest Convex whales. And he decides that he is going to front run our plans. And he purchases market buys in a very short window of time, $10 million additional Convex.
Right here.
So you can see that God candle.
What slippage?
Convex chart. Massive slippage. Jesus. Of course, I've been just accumulating my Convex yield from staking Curve. I see this huge dildo up, and I just unstaked mine and dumped it, into the rip because I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. Yeah. Like, what is going on here? And
it's a good sell.
At the chart, it looks like a lot of other people had that idea too. They were like, wow, I just fucking doubled my yield on this shit. Like, let's get it. Let's go ahead and sell it.
Buy the dip. Yeah, it's a single buy order, so it's not sustained buy pressure. It's a great.
Few people understand this. Okay, but more are beginning to. Controlling Curve is extremely powerful in the DeFi space. Curve is the backbone of almost everything in DeFi. And right now, Convex controls Curve. So if you control Convex, you control Curve. So Keeper DAO has this mission, and we're actually working right now, like maybe 20, 30 people on putting this proposal together to see how Keeper DAO could potentially become a major player in these Curve wars. And then from that, not only do we have this native yield, from our holdings, whether that be Curve or Convex, but we also have the ability to collect bribes and to lease this voting power. And that allows our treasury to accumulate governance tokens that we like. And when we accumulate those governance tokens we like, then we have voting power and we have say in these DAOs. So Keeper DAO, the ROOK token, not only now has internal and external revenue sources, but we also have power in the DeFi space in the sense that we're a meta governance token. The Keeper DAO controls or has a large say in a lot of these other DAOs, and that gives it this inherent value, aside from all the other things they have going on.
Kind of making me want to go get some ROOK.
That's kind of my altcoin thesis right now. Look, what I'm talking about with ROOK, nobody else can do. Nobody else has $100 million of liquid assets in the treasury. So we are in a unique position to pursue this goal. And if we do pull it off, I think that people won't be able to shut the fuck up about ROOK, which would make me very, very happy, of course, because anytime somebody wants to take a dig at me for some reason, they say, oh, ROOK.
Yeah.
So I'd love to be able to say, what about it? What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm here waiting for the day for you. Look, here's the funny thing from a TA perspective, and I admittedly, people always like to tell me I'm wrong. It's never going to go down there, RT. Well, look, it's always like, okay, maybe not. But if it does, and then you get, ooh, that's gross. You get, there it is. You get these drawdowns. I mean, what if trading was as simple as, wait for the goddamn RLZ, wait for the reload zone. And Dan's favorite level, the 88.6. I mean, look how well that was protected. Look how beautifully the 88.6 was protected on ROOK, and nobody wants it. Well, it's starting to become popular again. I don't think it's late on the bigger picture here. This looks like a bottom accumulation. What you're talking about tells me there could be a major breakout. It is at resistance, though. I'm not going to go pick it up today, but I'm gonna be watching ROOK.
I like for at resistance here. The diagonal, though. Draw the diagonal just for the meme.
Oh yeah, I like a diagonal. I love a good trend.
Horizontal levels are king. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. No, trend lines, though. Trend lines, I'm warming up to them a lot more in the last year.
Wedge season.
Because, it's just like, hey, we've broken through a downtrend. The thing is with technical signals, is a lot of people like to say, hey, this one's a meme, that one's a meme. The fact is, there is a handful of traders watching each one of them. So the more of them add up, if you break through a high time frame downtrend, that's a lot more traders that are in a pool of people who are now suddenly bullish on it or thinking about buying it. So we are through that downtrend. There will be a higher low somewhere along this uptrend. and I'm here for it. I'm gonna add some ROOK, but not yet, not today, not here, not like this.
I'll tell you what, Messi, before you even, I saw your tweet. I had just seen a tweet from Suzu, him playing chess against somebody with the cash tag Rook, and I was like, okay, it's time. Like,
yeah. It's been a while since the Sue Rook tweet. You know,
right?
He was playing chess with TZ Taiyang Zhang, who's the he actually, I think he's at Alameda now. He's the Ren founder, and he is still the founder of Rook. I don't even know what the fuck you call him. It doesn't seem like he has a very active role in it, but I do believe that he really does want to see it succeed. And I think he's doing some things behind the scenes to ensure it does.
Dude,
so we'll see where it goes.
From that tweet, I was like, okay, time to buy Rook. Literally 15 minutes later, you tweeted about it. I was like, oh my God. Like, and then it's pretty much doubled in.
Sorry, which coin are you talking about?
That was Rook.
Oh, Rook. Yeah. It's flying right now.
Look up Suzu, like his tweet on Rook the other day, and we put it on the trading view chart. It was like literally right.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine the power to just decide you really like something, build a thesis, build a position, and then start talking about it. I'm not saying he only, there's no way just, he makes money because he can tweet his own bags, but it's a nice perk. Can't lie. This is Woo. Woo is apparently the number 10 spot exchange now by volume, which is pretty impressive given that it only just launched back in October 2020, so about a year old now. It is breaking new highs. This is one that I've been charting and talking a little bit about. Not a big bag, but a decent sized one. Got into the PCZ last week and looks like it's ready to rip. We got a lot of volume on the break through that downtrend line. That's promising. So somebody in the audience asked me to pull it up. So here it is. I guess the big question is like, where go? Can we grab a chaos level through here? Let's just pull this one. Let's see what chaos looks like on Woo.
Woo certainly looks interesting. There is a bit of bearish divergence, and it does appear to be like kind of at some form of resistance. But I will say
it's coming into highs. Yeah, it's coming into all highs.
That Woo community is crazy. They're super passionate about the project. Apparently the guys behind Woo are absolute all stars. It's one of those cult community coins, and it's very, very difficult to fade a coin when it becomes that cult community status. Like, those guys are so diehard. They get the word out about the project, they support the project, they hold their bags, they buy the dips.
Woo has a buyback and burn mechanism too. Yeah, Woo has a buyback and burn mechanism, which is one of the things that I love about Binance, who, by the way, I think BNB just had their largest buyback and burn last week. Something to the tune, maybe it was 600 million. I'm just pulling that out of the thin air here, but I did see the tweet. And so over time, you're like, okay, maybe it's up, maybe it's down. The trend is this way, the trend is that way. But I know that every single time somebody makes a trade on that exchange, some tiny little smidgen of that coin disappears forever. And so you have this kind of sweet deflationary vibe that should intensify as user growth and all that happens. So I love that model. I think FTX has that model too, right, Rob? FTT has a bit of a buyback and burn of some kind.
Yeah.
So, and that's why it's not allowed on the US, FTX US, because it kind of makes it a security. So anyways, that I'm bullish on Woo. I like it. It's not, it's not a major position of mine, but it's one that I'm happy to keep my hands on for a little bit.
One thing that I have been thinking about, with the SEC's approval of this Bitcoin ETF, it does, I think for me, that's a sign that they do have good intentions, and them, for them to do that, that was an endorsement that, okay, crypto is a thing,
Well, maybe it's more of a sign of that there's money in politics now, right? There's a lot of special interest groups and lobby groups that are being spun up by funds, by exchanges. Like,
I'm sure, there's a bit of that. I do wonder though, there's this whole new class of crypto assets, things like Curve, these interest-bearing productive assets. I'd really like to see them develop a framework for those assets. I don't think you can just throw them into, the same the same room, with what has already been classified as securities, and one of the interesting things, that I think a lot of people haven't been talking about recently, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this this Ripple fiasco.
Yeah.
Does anybody know the status of that? I know Ripple has been.
Rob's my Ripple guy now. He's my XRP bro.
I've seen relatively friendly headlines from there. There was chatter. I mean, it's something to keep an eye on. Like if they have a favorable ruling and it gets relisted at Coinbase and these places, I mean, it could really be a mover, but I don't know. I mean,
is everyone just holding on to that one because it's like it did it in 2017? Like, it's always this, when Ripple goes, it goes. What if it just, I don't know, what if it doesn't go?
They got
what if it just never, it's okay. They just buy their own coin too.
They've sold a shit ton of it. I mean, you've got obviously, who is it? Jed McCaleb in there, who's got kind of this unlimited faucet of Ripple that he gets and just auto dumps on the market. So, I mean, if you get through that supply, but I mean,
for those of you who weren't around, this is what I'm talking about, right? Ever since this, there has been this like cult following of Ripple. I mean, it did it again in 2018, even in the spring. Was it spring? No, September rally. And so there's this idea that like, man, when Ripple goes, it goes. And it's true. It did. And look at that chaos level 1. I just noticed that.
I am curious though,
I don't know.
It'll
probably go. Let's be real.
You've got these like institutional grade sources that are talking about DeFi protocols and productive assets. How do we exist in a future to where, of course we've heard all of this talk about stablecoin regulation and this and that. And Gary Gensler, says he doesn't want to hurt the U.S. investors. That's his number one goal. He wants to protect. That's his job. That's his mission. If that is true,
misguided.
How do they regulate this in any kind of way that destroys this value that's been created in the crypto market? They have to know as part of. It's not like these old farts just get around and let's fuck all these crypto dudes up, blah, blah, blah. Like, they model this stuff, they research this stuff. And surely part of that is understanding, hey, if we really fuck stable coins up the ass somehow, and we make it so that they're pretty much worthless, or whatever, that impacts the whole crypto market, right? It has a very negative effect on literally everything here. So I'm of the opinion that, you've got like Bank of America talking about Curve and institutional investors interested in these productive assets. A lot of money is interested in this space and a lot of money is already invested in this space. How do we progress from here? What does the future look like? Anytime in crypto over the last, X amount of years, however long, you always hear about these regulatory actions and then they do seem scary. Moving into the actual action, there's always this FUD. There's always these people painting it in the worst light possible, the worst case scenario. And that's important, right? You do need to consider everything. Nothing is off the table. But at the same time, it always seems magically to work out to where it's just not that bad.
Yeah.
And it moves the
well, that's the tweet storm that Raoul Paul put out on the day that Gensler made his announcement. We featured it in the newsletter at HeroLabs.io. And it was basically saying that that's typical negotiating tactics, right? You come in hardline, you set the bar, and then you end up kind of pulling back a little bit and finding a nice happy medium. And that makes a lot of sense to me. It's probably my favorite take on the whole Gensler situation is that A, it's going to take quite a while to just get anything tangible. B, there's a good chance he's just coming in with that hard line to kind of be a wake-up call. And then there'll be conversations and then, reason will take over and they'll realize, oh, we're actually not protecting investors. Some of these projects are legit and they can have meaningful yield on their savings. And then we find that happy medium where they say, okay, let's all just agree to take out the scammers. And then maybe that's your result and like everybody wins.
Scammers need to be taken care of first regardless. I mean,
of course, but that's really what Gensler's saying, right? We want to protect investors. It's like, well, then come on in. Yeah. And get rid of some of these really nasty, shitty, scammy things. Like, like hit up Telegram and start helping them delete these scammy Telegram channels. I had 3 of them today pop up in one of the projects I work with. And there's literally screenshots of people in there just being spoken to by scammers. And they have no idea. They need help. You know, we don't need help with our curve. We don't need help with our DYDX airdrops. You know, people need help.
Another thing I've been thinking about is the DeFi space does move so fast. You know, when it moves, you know, of course we have these expansion and contraction phases. And, you know, we're seeing another expansion, I think largely due to the fact that we have so many viable alternatives to do DeFi and now. You know, it's kind of inspired this next generation of DeFi because, hey, we can do DeFi again. It's not cost prohibitive. You know, go over to Avalanche, go to Solana, go to Phantom, you know, get your DeFi done. Harmony.
Dip your toes in.
Matic. You have Moon River. I mean, you have there's just
Celo. We talked about Celo the other day with Daniel.
Celo, Cosmos, like literally so many different things. You know, I do wonder how they regulate something that's growing so fast and changing so quickly every day. I mean, if you decided, hey, I'm going to regulate it right now today, the space is going to look entirely different 2 months from that moment.
It's going to be, it's going to be tricky.
It's just a goalpost that continues to move. So how do you chase this monster?
Well, especially when a lot of the bad actors are not even
like it is.
Yeah, and a lot of the bad actors aren't sitting in the United States, right? So, you know, I was just thinking in my head as you're talking, like, well, maybe they could have like some kind of place where people could go to report some bad acting or whatever, and they're just like a task force, but they don't have jurisdiction on half of this shit, and that's a slippery slope in and of itself. I'm just thinking out loud here, but yeah, it's not an easy problem to solve, and so let's all just be thankful that their resolution to that, not having a ready-made solution, wasn't to just be like ban crypto, which is kind of what China did, and I'm pretty impressed that
they aren't interested in that. Look, it's very clear to me now that the United States realizes that it's in a position to be the global leader and this new
they're starting to realize
area.
that.
Like
they
they know that, and I think that they're going to do what they can to secure the bag. I mean, this could be huge for the United States, you know, in terms of not only people wanting to be here because of favorable regulatory conditions, but also for tax revenue, you know, which is a huge issue. They're talking about right now, holy fuck, you know, where are we going to get all this money from? Well, you know what? Like, I'm more than happy for them to get it out of the crypto industry if they're willing to give us our share, which means doing the things that need to be done for this to be regulated in a proper way that encourages growth, that allows institutions to invest in this field, et cetera. I mean, it could be a new renaissance.
I listened to an interesting Joe Rogan podcast a month ago. He had a guy on that was like ex-CIA, you know, some kind of like, you know, knows about the stuff, talks about world issues and all these things. And they talked for like an hour about the rise of China, the future. And it was kind of scary stuff. It was just basically the nutshell I could deliver on that was if China's system of communism, of, you know, more totalitarian kind of control over the internet, if they end up becoming the economic superpower, then does that prove their model is optimal? And then how does that affect, you know, the world over the next 50 years? And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. You know, if you want to say land of the free and democracy and the way we do it is the best, well, you better be the fucking best. And China is on pace in many ways. You know, since the 90s pulled 300, 400, 500 million people out of abject poverty and got them to work. We've got to snap back. The West has got to respond with something that is economically successful, and maybe crypto is you know, the tide that can lift that boat. It was an interesting podcast. So I wish I had the name because I'm not the expert on that, but that was my take. And as I hear you talk, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's how the U.S. is going to climb out, because you don't want to be in a situation where communism is the most successful form of government.
No.
At least I don't. Not the way that communism is run. Hell no.
I don't think anybody does.
No. I think the idea of communism is probably attractive to certain people, but it never plays out that way. So anyways, this is getting too political. I'm running home. Guys, we are getting to the top of the second hour. I'm going to pull us back to the studio as we wrap up. Rob, I really like to hear your final thoughts as we head into post new all-time high, you know, Bitcoin. What are you looking at? Maybe not chart-wise, like where are you at in the market right now as maybe some final thoughts for today?
You know, I think that one thing we have to keep in mind is this ETF is driving a lot more volume to the CME futures. So what does that tell me? It tells me that US trading hours are becoming more important right now. So, I'm looking to see if there's any trends that occur around 8:30 a.m. Chicago time when the CME, when the day session starts. I'm looking what's happening at 3 p.m. Chicago time when the settlements for futures are come in, and then there's a break at 4 p.m. Central time. So I'm kind of looking at, all right, we know that this U.S. futures market is now a bigger driver. So are there any little nuances market structure wise with that? It's inevitable. We can't deny it. Like this U.S. ETF is a big deal. Yeah. So I'm looking for little things like that. The other story is really the altcoin versus Bitcoin story, which, we've been seeing the rotator meme for a while because everyone was trying to position for this all-time high, this run in Bitcoin. And I'm looking to see how these alts perform, because a lot of big money dumped a lot of their alts to get into Bitcoin. And
yeah.
One of those feelings that really can hurt is if you like an alt or but you sold it to get into Bitcoin and it's not doing what you expected. So now if your alt is running and you get that FOMO to get back in, I think we can expect to see some volatility in alts relative to Bitcoin. And
I did skim the charts as you were talking earlier. I think they did a quick. None of them are ready. None that I saw versus Bitcoin right now. They're all dipping hard. You want to buy the dip. The trend is down, and I'm not in a rush to reverse that. We also got a huge market structure reversal on the weekly here. Not the biggest one confirmed, but this little one back in June. The dip into the reload zone. Now we're moving. We're above the 20-week moving average, trading there for the first time since February 22nd, which is when we took the real dive. This is the beginning of a new trend, not the end. That's my take, and I'm staying away from, or at least I am rushing, or I'm not rushing into, new alt, CEX positions with my Bitcoin for now.
Yeah.
I still hold majority altcoins, but they're non-CEX coins, So yeah. I agree with you on that take, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, obviously we all want to see alts, take off every time Bitcoin chills, and then Bitcoin go higher, and then altcoins pull back a bit, and then they, that would be a sweet little zigzag trend for us to have. But I'm going to stick to the trends for now. And hey, if those BTC pairs reverse and we get some buy volume and there's evidence of whales selling their Bitcoins over to altcoins, I'll be right there with them at the lows.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, the Bitcoin chart right now, it doesn't look bearish.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look bearish.
It doesn't mean that shit doesn't happen and things reverse like on a dime and whatever.
Yeah.
But
30% pullback is part and parcel for a big bull run, right? We will get it. I think we'll get it later than people think. Like, kind of right here, right? We broke the 20K new all-time highs, moved sideways. We didn't get the puke. I distinctly recall this day because I was trying to short it. And somebody laughed, like, what kind of idiot would short Bitcoin? I got stopped out. Well, the next day we had the largest dollar drawdown in Bitcoin history. And I remember just being like, fuck, because I actually did get stopped out just before it happened. It came later than anyone expected. And by the time it came, not many people were watching for it. So do we get lulled into a little sleep here? Maybe even come up and see this chaos? Like, who knows? But I don't think it doesn't seem quite ready to me yet. That's not to say I'm ready to buy here. It's way out of my buy level, but I'm not rushing to short it. Hell no, and I'm certainly not taking off my spot yet. Let's end today. We're gonna go back to this idea. We put out this idea when Bitcoin broke to new all-time highs, and we've just broken all-time highs again. It seems suitable as we wrap up today. December 17th last year, we broke all-time highs. It was a big day, and this is how it's progressed so far. It's kind of like, I feel like from this perspective, and we've got the big fib extension from the entire last cycle.
Chart though, bro.
Oh God, thank you. Oh no, oh my God. I did the thing. I even talked about a previous chart. Anyways, here we are. Fib extension from the whole last cycle. I thought it'd be fun. Like, let's just see what happens. We broke to new all-time highs. Now I got to start it again. We got to see the play button.
Yeah, you gotta.
It's, this is my favorite feature on TradingView. You can just boop and see how it plays out over a year. So it's almost been a year, and we're just chugging along. Yeah. And we've just, that was a big reaccumulation cycle. It should not end in one candle, I don't think. So we'll see.
It doesn't
looks good.
Bearish, but also, we got over 300 people here in the video. Smash that like button for us. We need this algo to recognize the alpha that we're dishing out here.
If you guys are wondering, it's been working. Our subs are picking up, our viewability, people seeing us in the browse section and all that. Your likes matter. So hit us with a like, hit us with a sub if you haven't. Hit the notification bell so you'll be warned or alerted anytime we're going to go live. And don't forget, Frog Nation tomorrow on Twitter. Messi and I got a little new pod coming up, Twitter Spaces. So that'll be fun.
Frog Nation, it will be 4 p.m. PST. First guest is going to be Rory Capital. So check it out. Rory's pretty badass. Fuse pools. Be there.
Yep. Okay, guys. Have a wonderful day. Great week. Happy all-time highs. And whatever you do from now until next time, always play from a position of strength. Take care. I did not buy a ton.